Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists. I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're here to talk about some Legend of Vox Machina. I'm
Some
excited.
goodness. Yeah. Some good stuff. We feasting, man.
Bro, we are
Well,
feasting. This month has just been loaded.
yeah, it's like and
Absolutely
we
loaded.
go back to Critical Role on Thursday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff for sure. And I'm excited to talk about Legend of Vox Machina.
Me too, man. If you guys didn't see it, Blake and I watched it together and we posted our reaction to the first 3 episodes. So if you're interested to see that. And he and I like just for the briefest of moments kind of talked right after we finished, being like, did you like it and stuff? But other than that, we've been holding off to talk now. So I'm excited to get into it with you as well. And quick
Yeah.
plug, I'm also making breakdowns of every episode this season. I did it last season as well, so you might have seen those. But if you didn't, check them out. I've released the first 2, and I'm working on the third one. Hopefully, that'll be up sometime tomorrow.
Yeah. And my man Will is spending like endless hours on these videos. I'm doing like endless hours on the reaction videos that get like, 30 views. But Will's definitely, pulling the work. And honestly, as someone who hasn't seen the campaigns, it's really, it honestly is really exciting for a couple of reasons. One, like obviously, you love Critical Role. We both do. It's why we do this channel. But it's just really cool as someone who never experienced that campaign to be digging into your video and getting those little treats. And it also
Yeah,
makes me just appreciate the show more overall, because like some of the details you point out, I'm like, man, these are people similar to The Last of Us, which we'll talk about in that video. But it's just rewarding when people who make something like this clearly love what they're doing, love the product, or
yeah,
love the brand, I guess. So it's exciting.
yeah. I mean, you can tell, right? You can tell when there's like passion behind it.
Right. Right.
Um, which I guess we've basically already started. But we did podcasts on the first season, but I'm trying to remember like what it was even our format. Not that we even need one, but in Critical Role, we'll usually jump into a recap. I don't really know if that's necessary here.
Probably not
Um,
necessary. I mean, I'm assuming if you're watching the reaction, you've probably seen the episodes. If you haven't, stop and go watch them because they're really, really good. These episodes are very, I don't know if this is the right word, they're very chunky. Like, it almost felt like for a 25-minute episode, so much is happening. Like, when I was cutting the recaps, I was like, or the reaction video, I was like, what do I cut out? Because like almost
yeah,
every frame, every scene was it felt so important. So there's a lot happening these episodes. I'm not sure where to start, but I loved all 3 of them overall.
me too. And just to chime in on what you said, there really is so much because when going down making these breakdowns, I like pause it every second, and I'm like, okay, I got to get a screenshot of this and that. So that it really does. They've taken what is probably thousands of hours. I haven't done the math, but maybe not thousands, but hundreds upon hundreds of hours of content, and they've distilled it down to in total maybe 4 or 5 hours for the season.
Yeah.
So, um, it is impressive how much they're getting in, and
Are you, are you pleased with, as someone who watched the show, and we probably talked about this in season 1, and we'll talk about this more as it goes on, but um, I'm sure there were some really big moments for you knowing from the show. I mean, knowing from the story, sorry, the live action,
yeah, yeah.
like the attack on Iman. Like, did that do it for you? Like, were you like, oh man, they visualized this well? Or tell me what you thought about it.
No, yeah, I thought it was awesome. That moment in the original campaign is one of like the moments that like I'll if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, what's a list of the moments that you first think of in the first campaign?" Which, as that happens, that's definitely up there. Is that kind of, I guess, cliffhanger for lack of a better word, because it happened toward the end of one of the episodes. And similarly to this show, like we were kind of at the conclusion of the Briarwood arc. We had just, kind of fought the big bad and they were successful. And now it's like the chill, the descending action portion of the
Yes.
story, and
Which
then
is
all
what I
this,
was expecting. I
yeah,
was expecting the dragons to be like, you know, we will spare you, but we'll be back. We'll be back in 3 days' time. And there's like a montage of training and getting everyone ready. Nope. Everyone was just brutally murdered. So
yeah, it just Matt just throws that at him, and it's like, what, dragons are attacking? And then it is, yeah, plural. Like there are multiple dragons attacking, and I mentioned this in the breakdown, and I think you've seen that episode, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's a specific moment where like they're like, okay, well, this is happening. Like, let's engage and deal with this. And Grog attacks, and it's a 19,
yeah,
and Matt goes 19 misses, and he's like, what? And so they
yeah.
realize that, like,
19 misses.
yeah, they realize like they're in over their heads, and so
Yeah.
to cycle back to your question, yeah, I thought they knocked it out of the park. I thought they really did a good job of just showing like how hopeless it was. Like this isn't something that they're going to deal with right now. This is something they need to run from. And so yeah, I felt that horror, that chaos, and I thought Titmouse did amazing.
Yeah, I guess since we're already there, let's just park on episode 1 for now. Yeah, Titmouse did awesome. Like the sense of carnage was just and violence, like the
That yeah,
acid
the acid
rain and
rain, that was
stuff.
the
And
worst.
oh my gosh, and just people getting just melted into nothing. And then like the pure power of Thordak. Like when he does like the Godzilla-esque beam into
Yeah.
the main palace and just like it was very much Final Fantasy VII, like Mako canon-esque of like the beam just
Yeah.
going through and just like continuing on.
That
These
that was
I've
insane.
actually these vestiges must be crazy powerful because I'm already like these guys are insanely strong.
Yeah, in that moment in particular, like there wasn't a Thordak goes Super Saiyan moment in the campaign because like you can't really like describe that. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course they were wreaking havoc and doing damage, but that's an example of how the animated show kind of like met my expectations and then some, just because that was so cool.
Do you think they
But
did justice? Or sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just go ahead. I was rambling.
Well, just I love the flavor of the differences of all the
Yes.
dragons. Like so particularly different. The design of them was so great. Was it like that in in the actual live show too?
No, not really, because I mean, in D&D there are many figures, but it's a lot of it's theater of the mind, right? So no, I mean and I don't even remember. I think Matt did have like 4 literal minifigures, and so I'm sure they looked somewhat different, but they were basically just different colored dragons.
Yeah,
So here in the show, they are like vastly more different, and I thought that was awesome too. Vorgal's like a rhinoceros, basically, which I thought was cool.
yeah, yeah. Well, the carnage was just insane, and I actually it was not what I was expecting at all for a couple of reasons. Allura and oh, what's her name? Lady
Kima,
Kima. Yeah. Like the boulder landing and crushing them. I was like, what? And then also just Iman. So I know from Exandria, from EXU season 1, I kind of pieced together like, oh, and we talked about it, like, oh, there was this guy who attacked or dragon who attacked Iman, and that's the
right,
crater.
right,
And so I was like, oh, like a bad guy came and like detonated a bomb in a crater, I guess. They like destroyed Iman. And like
yeah.
it seems like at the start of the maybe it was episode 3 when Pike has the dream, it sounds like they then like finished off the population that was there.
Um,
Like
well, that wasn't a dream, first of
right,
all.
right. Yeah, but
Mhm.
my yeah, exactly,
Right, right.
right.
Okay, I was just making
And that's my
sure.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's my point is it seems like they finished off everyone else. So like I guess I'm just surprised that Iman is
it still
still
exists.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, so like in at least in that third episode, dragons love treasure. That's kind of just a general, trope. They have their hordes and stuff. So like part of them taking over or Thordak taking over Amon wasn't that he was killing everybody. He was like just subjugating them. And so they were bringing
Right.
him offerings. And I think just in that first scene was just kind of like a cool way to show more destruction and that, these dragons are the bad guys, if you will. Not that we needed any more reminding. Um, but I don't think that was representative of him like literally finishing off the entire population, just like in that moment, killing those people type of thing. But yeah, so it's more of you get it. I'm not going to say any further just in case of spoiling anything. Actually, so I'm just going to stop now.
Okay. Well, so
But really quick, props to you because if you watched the reaction, you'll see this, and Blake just mentioned it. But you were real quick to be like the Scar of Amon right when that happened, or the
oh
Cinder
yeah,
King's Scar.
yeah,
Which
right,
so
yeah,
just kudos to you putting that together so quick because yeah, that's
yeah.
exactly what that is.
Well, it was a very like DBZ esque, you know, bomb crater being formed, and so I was like, that has to be it.
Yeah, and if
So
if for those of you that maybe are have only know Critical Role through this show and haven't seen the campaign, um, one, I guess kind of spoiler warning, we won't get too crazy with it. But two, what we're talking about is even still to this day in the world of Critical Role, which is now 30 some odd years later, there are still remnants of what Thordak did. There's literally like a portal isn't the right word, I guess, but there is like still like an element of like the elemental plane of fire with like fire elementals and stuff that are still like in the city because of this moment.
yeah,
Um, so just super cool.
is it still satisfying to you, like knowing some of the upcoming like big story points for like how they'll fight and eventually defeat these dragons?
Yeah, I mean, one, it's just cool to see it come to life, just in
Yeah,
general, just in the same way that like if you read a book and that book's becoming a movie, like you still can enjoy the movie. Um, but they're also doing such a great job with making changes. This isn't like the best example, but that Thordak attack we were just talking about, like that's I didn't know that that was coming, and that was like an awesome surprise to me. But there also are some like actual beyond just aesthetic changes that have been made that are cool to see and cool to be like, oh, so this is why they're doing that, or I think, or not that I know, but you can kind of try to place why they're doing certain things that are different. Again, I won't get into spoilers, but one of the things that happens in the first episode is Vax sees that woman, and
yeah,
you know, I guess I won't say it here just in case, but you and I both know who that is, and that in that moment didn't happen in the campaign, but that's one of the changes that I I enjoy and I think makes a lot of sense. So again, I'm going off kind of crazy when you ask me these things, but to cycle it back, I still really enjoy it, and I'm really enjoying kind of picking up on the alterations they're making.
yeah. And it's been cool watching your breakdowns too, because you mentioned it there as well. Like, because you have to ask yourself, how do you take long form content, several hours, and put it into a digestible 25-minute episode.
Right.
And like I said, you mentioned the breakdowns, but like some of these characters that are clunky is not the right word, because in the live show, they're great and they're well received, but for the sake of like the story and keeping the pacing, like the way that they've sort of taken the spirit of those characters. There was one you mentioned in the breakdown specifically. I don't remember what the detail was, but they like added something as kind of a nod to that character, even though there wasn't like the timing to like actually bring in that character.
Oh, have you
Uh,
watched the second breakdown?
I started watching it. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like 45 minutes. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah. So I was trying to think of what you're
yeah,
talking about, and I think I know what it is if it's from the second
yeah,
one. Um,
yeah. It's from the second one. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so like it is just interesting to see how they're going to kind of facilitate all of that. But there are, and I mean, the show's only 3 episodes in, so it might not be fair for me to say this because I guess they could still do it. But there was already at least one kind of moment that I don't think they're going to put in because I think it would have happened in episode 2, and it didn't. But I mean, that just happens with, like you were just saying, with so much content. Like some stuff's going to have to get cut. Um, but on the whole, I'm absolutely loving it. I think it's fantastic, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so maybe I shouldn't. But I've been
you're
really
like
interested.
it's the greatest show of all time.
No, I just mean like in terms of jumping to the end of episode 3, which is what I was going to say. But I've just been really one interested to see your reaction to some of these things, but two, given what happens at the end of episode 3, I obviously knew that was coming. Um, but the way they set it up was so awesome with the flashbacks. Like there were no flashbacks
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
campaign. Um,
right.
so I just Oh yeah, I'm loving it. I don't even know where I was in this conversation, but
Yeah, and I honestly don't even know if it makes sense to be like, so what happened in episode 2? Like, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
we watched the show. We saw the show. We're talking about the show, but so maybe it's okay just to jump to that moment. Yeah, very awesome, like stylistic choice. Totally threw me. I thought they were setting up the whole time for Vax to die, like, because it just seemed like he was the one who was like, and Vex is kind of always being the one who's like, like, I'm fine, I don't need you. And so
mhm.
I thought it was implying that Vax was going to get killed and she would realize like, no, I do need you. But I love how the subtle flip of that, and how really like it was Vax who was sort of self-serving and like staying with this sister, not self-serving, I mean they're brother and sister, they love each other, but definitely, he needed her as well. So a nice little flip there that I wasn't expecting, that was a huge cliffhanger also.
Yeah, yeah. Big cliffhanger, and not to keep plugging our own content, but I did make a video breaking down what I thought we were going to see this season based on the episode titles. If anyone's curious, and that's one of the things I said, that like I bet if episode 3 ends with this cliffhanger, and there's actually a couple other like pretty nasty cliffhangers that they could do. Um,
Oh no.
so I'm interested to see if they keep like stabbing us in the chest with certain moments.
I can only take so much.
I know, right? Um,
So, man, there were some other really great scenes. I loved the sorry, I don't know the phrasing, but where they were doing the tree teleport to Vasselheim,
mm,
and
yeah,
I can't think of the woman's name, but she was like describing the tree.
Keeper Yinin, I think.
Yeah, Keeper Yenin, that's right. And it was like big, and I didn't realize that's what they were doing at first. I was just like, that's not helpful at all. But
Yeah.
then it's a walnut or maybe an oak tree, blue flowers or maybe yellow. And then I was kind of wondering like where are they going to end up, and so I just loved the opening of that next episode, um, and the butt slash boobies that
Yeah.
they land on.
Yeah, that
So
moment was actually it, I think it's fair to say inspired from a moment that happened in the campaign, but it was different, but I'm pretty sure it was inspired by, because it was when they weren't like, and not, maybe this is even important to go into, but in the campaign they were going to Draconia, which is where Tiberius was from,
right,
and they've kind of just excised him for the purposes of this show. But in that moment, like, they kind of knew what they were getting into, and a couple of them were like pre-flying even before going into the tree. So that's all that to say that's another example of kind of like a cool change that I feel like they really made the most out of, to kind of turn it into this moment where it's like, oh shit, like we're all falling. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it was fun.
yeah. A lot of good grog content this batch of episodes.
Hmm.
Probably my favorite is when what's the guy's name who like beats the crap out of him
Oh,
from the Stormlords
yeah,
temple.
Earthbreaker Groon.
Yeah, like when he gives him like the speech at the end.
Hmm.
He goes, "Cool." I just thought it was great.
He has
Uh,
a lot of those great moments of just like one line kind of in the background. That one wasn't the background, but yeah, Travis is like, he's hilarious. I mean, he's a
yeah.
tenured voice actor, so he knows what he's doing, but still, some of those lines were cracking me up.
Talking about this stuff, it's hard for me not to like mentally go to that Chris Farley skit where he's like, "You remember
Yeah.
that part?"
Remember
And
that
he's like,
part where
Yeah." He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That was awesome,
that was
man."
awesome. When you
Yeah,
walked on the broken glass.
yeah. In Die Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, and yeah, the Sphinx was super cool. I love the dynamic between again, I apologize. I'm meeting these characters for the first time, so I'm not remembering
Yeah.
their names, but Zara, I think,
Hmm. Yeah. Zara and
in
Cash.
Vex. Oh
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and Cash, but Zara and Vex specifically.
Hmm.
I loved their back and forth the whole time. It was such like a cool rivalry that I was just like, this is great.
Yeah, me too.
So,
I was wondering, and we haven't talked about this, but you might have seen me in the breakdown mention it. I was wondering if they had
like a thing or
like,
something.
yeah, they were like scorned lovers kind of vibes, because I felt like they
Maybe
were like trying to make each other jealous.
it may be,
Um,
yeah.
which wasn't the case in the campaign. That's one of the things that's kind of been shifted the most, which I don't want to get into the weeds on it here. You guys watch the breakdown if you're interested. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested to see how those relationships develop because we're starting at a different place than when we started in the campaign. And again, not that they have to be like scorned exes, but if they were, that would just be such a fun little change that they're inserting.
What
Um,
about characters like Cash? So I watched your breakdown, and maybe you want to like spoiler ban me on this conversation, but
oh yeah.
I watched your breakdown and like the mentioning of his backstory, which was really intriguing.
Mm.
Um, my question is, are we? I found myself wondering, okay, are they going to create the space for that? And if not, how do you kind of come to terms with like these really cool flavors that possibly won't end up in the animated show?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I don't think we're gonna get into those aspects of his backstory that I was talking about, because we didn't even really get to it in the show. We found those details out, like I don't remember exactly when. You know, maybe it was like a campfire at night, everyone's sharing moments type of thing. But it's not like in the proper campaign we got the Cash arc where he like went and dealt with this stuff. You know,
Yeah.
so definitely in the show, I don't think we're getting that, but maybe he'll bring it up in like during a conversation with Keyleth or something if they get to know each other a little bit better. So it would be cool, but really, there's not the space to kind of really deal with that. So they might not bring it up at all, just to not even tease people with it, you know.
And do
But
you does that bum you out, or is it just kind of like I get it? I mean, I know you get it, but
for that in particular, no, because it wasn't even in the
mhm.
campaign. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, okay,
at
yeah,
least for me as a fan, and the reason I even brought this up is because Cash has the scars on his arm, and that's how you.
right.
And from the campaign, we know what those scars are from. So the fact that they included that detail in the show, I think, is really cool. So it's definitely not something I'm like, oh man, I'm sad they're not doing this. If anything, I'm excited that they at least included the allusion to it with the
Yeah,
scars.
which
Uh,
we mentioned in our intro of just like it's just fun to enjoy media content that there's so much passion in it, you know. And I think, frankly, it was probably one of the biggest criticisms we got from the Rings of Power show
yeah,
was, you know, this amazing IP that sort of fell flat in terms of capturing the inspiration that is the Lord of the Rings, I guess. So it's fun that we're getting that with Legend of Vox Machina. Honestly, the more I watch the show, the more I so badly want a campaign 3 because that's like
right,
the
dude.
one that that's the one that
One
I've
you've
watched.
watched, yeah,
Yeah. So I'm like, oh man, what's gonna happen? What would my characters look like? Come to life or well animated. So
yeah. I mean,
anyway,
Critical Role continues to bloom, right? Now I know that I imagine this is a lot of work. Um, but if it's successful, and I don't really know what that means as far as making a TV show, like not that they're in it to print money, but obviously that's just a fact of life. And they're not gonna dump money into it if it's not doing anything, right? Um, which the and this whole first set of episodes was funded by the fans to begin with. You know, it was a Kickstarter. But now that like that proof of concept is done, and if it continues to do well, like I don't know if it still is, but I know that it reached number 1 on Amazon. Which even if it's not still there, that's still huge, right? Anyway, all that to say is if it continues to do well, why wouldn't they then adapt campaign 2? And if like the momentum still carries, which I mean that would have to be at least 5 or 6 years from now, right? Because we still have at least 2 more years of Vox Machina, but probably 3. And then campaign 2, let's just say that's 4. Now we're 7 years deep if they just do one a year. So we could be looking at like a decade from now of getting campaign 3, but
dang
like
it.
why wouldn't they though? If it's
Yeah.
continuing to work, why not?
Yeah. By the way, I just realized you're wearing a Calamity shirt.
That's right.
I think I ordered that shirt. I never got it. I'm just
Really?
realizing. Yeah.
Well, you gotta check on that, dude.
Yeah. I ordered it like a year ago, I feel like, whenever Calamity was.
They got pretty good customer service. So if you
Yeah.
do find out that you did and you never got it, just reach out to them.
Oh, we moved. So I wonder if it went to my old place. Anyway,
Ew.
besides the point.
But on that same kind of thread, though, I mean, I would love it if we got campaign 2 and campaign 3. Like, give me all of it. But it would be cool if they made, just since it's like less of a commitment and you don't have to wait to get there. Like if they gave us like a mini series of Calamity that was animated, like that would be amazing.
Bro, those 4 episodes animated. Oh my gosh,
That'd be something special.
that would be so special. Yeah. It's so funny because I was listening. I was listening to the soundtrack of Calamity. I was listening to some of the music from it while I was driving today, and it
Yeah.
just took me back. I was actually thinking, like, dude, not to like hijack this episode, but I was just like reflecting. I was like, man, that even like so we need to do like a post, 6 months later, however long it was,
Yeah.
like now down the road, what are our thoughts on it?
Mhm.
Because I still feel as strongly that one of the best encapsulated, beautiful stories that I have experienced.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just took me back. It's just funny we started talking about it. So
It's amazing. If anyone is watching this video and you haven't seen Calamity, check that out. It is well worth it. But yeah. Anyway, again, to circle back, I'm getting away from us a lot this episode, but I totally feel that because I'm experiencing it right now with campaign 1, and it's awesome. So I hope we get there for campaign 3 as well.
a lot of waiting time. So
I know, but you never know. You never know. Maybe they like start co-releasing like
yeah, that's fair.
Legends of Vox Machina, but then we're also gonna have Mighty Nine starting concurrently. I mean, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, and releasing like a second show.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. Well, anything else you wanna talk about?
Um, I'm trying to think. We've just been goozing on the show the whole time. I'm trying to think if there's anything like actually aside from that I wanted to bring up, but
You've signed up to listen to us just rant about how much we like our TV shows.
yeah,
You're still here.
hopefully, and yeah, if you're on this video and you're this far into it, you hopefully feel the same way. Um, but no, yeah, I'm loving it. I'm excited to see where the changes come and go. So far, I've been 1,000,000% on board with everything that they have changed, and yeah, I don't want to get into any spoiler territory, so maybe we'll talk about it in later episodes when certain things do or don't happen. But I'm looking forward to a lot, and especially looking forward to your reaction to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, we'll watch this next batch of episodes this weekend, and we'll be back next week. We have a lot of content next week too. We have the next batch of Legend of Vox Machina. We have another Last of Us episode, which we're going to be working on right after this one. But we have another episode next week, which I think might be we'll talk offline about what I think it might be. And then an actual Critical Role episode as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm doing this as like a full-time job now.
I know, man. I'm not good at video editing, so that's why it takes me forever. But like today, filming this, it's Tuesday, right? I've kind of
Right,
lost
yeah.
track of time. I've been video editing these breakdowns since they aired Thursday, and like I should finish by tomorrow, but then the next day is new episodes. So like for the next month,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be doing this nonstop.
Yeah.
So that being said, really appreciate it if y'all check those out. Leave us likes, leave us comments if you want to subscribe. Much love. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video because but if you made it this far, you're the one that needs to hear this. We're doing watch parties for all of the Legend of Vox Machina. So on Thursday, I don't know exactly when yet. We still have to iron that out. But if you want to watch along with me and Blake and everyone else from the Pixelist community, we're going to be watching together. For more information, join our Discord because that's where we'll be figuring out the exact time and everything. So we'd love for you to join us.
Yeah. All right.
That's
well,
all I
thank you
got.
guys for checking out our video, and stay tuned for more stuff.
Bye, y'all.